Shabbat Shalom, family. Glory and honor to our Father Yahweh, who is the creator of heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, who is the God and Father of the Most High chosen people, Israel, who he said that these are the only people that he has chosen. The God and Father of the Messiah, Yahweh, who is the high priest and will soon return as king, so that he will be prophet, priest, and king given to him from our Father. Greetings to the 12 tribes of the Most High Yah, scattered into the four corners of the earth, as the Bible showed us, and to the 144,000 among them, who are the forerunners of the return of Messiah and the establishment of his kingdom soon to appear. Greetings. Greetings to the precious ones among the Gentiles, the children of Japhet, the children of Ham, the children of Shem that are not of the lineage of Jacob, but are through the blood of the Messiah, grafted into the chosen ones, and who have received righteousness through the faith of Messiah. Greetings. Greetings to the chat. Isha Shama and Brother Shama, Superstar, Only One Way, David Harriet, Hebrew Wanda, Brother Gary Joseph, Brother Brandon Beckman, Yafi, Brother Manny, Brother Yakoba, my fellow Florida brother, Arkawan Banya, Listen to Your Body, Brother Stephen Kelly, Sister Nashia Wade. Greetings to all of you. So we are studying the book of Revelation, and what we're going to study tonight is two churches, Smyrna and Pergamos. And these are two opposites, churches, opposite eras, opposite assemblies, if you will. First, let's look at what the Bible talks about, which we are familiar with in terms of the persecution of our fathers and the scattering of our fathers. Let's first look at that. And we're familiar with these, most of us that have been awakened at this time, we're familiar with these. And so let's take a look at Leviticus chapter 26. Leviticus chapter 26. We're going to look at two witnesses from Moses, and then we'll go to other witnesses. But let's look at Leviticus chapter 26. I'm going to start at verse 21 from Leviticus chapter 26, which is the end of the time, the prophecy about the end of the time of our fathers being in our land. That we have been scattered off of. So Leviticus chapter 26, beginning at verse 21. And if ye walk contrary unto me, and will not hearken unto me, I will bring 7 times more plagues upon you according to your sins. I will also send wild beasts among you, which shall rob you of your children, and destroy your cattle, and make you few in number, and your highways shall be desolate. And if you would not be reformed by me, by these things, but will walk contrary unto me, I will also walk contrary unto you, and will punish you yet 7 times for your sins. And I will bring a sword upon you, that ye shall avenge the quarrel of my covenant, that shall avenge the quarrel of my covenant. And when ye are gathered together within your cities, I will send the pestilence among you, and ye shall be delivered into the hand of the enemy. And when I have broken the staff of your bread, 10 women shall bake your bread in one oven, and they shall deliver you your bread again by weight, and ye shall eat and not be satisfied. And if ye would not, for all this, hearken unto me, but walk contrary unto me, I will walk contrary unto you also in fury. And I, even I, will chastise you 7 times for your sins. And ye shall eat the flesh of your sons, and the flesh of your daughters shall ye eat. And I will destroy your high places, and cut down your images, and cast your carcasses upon the carcasses of your idols. And my soul shall abhor you. And I will make your cities waste, and bring your sanctuaries unto desolation. And I will not smell the savor of your sweet odors. And I will bring the land into desolation, and your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it. And I will scatter you among the heathen, and will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste. And then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths, as long as it lieth desolate, and ye shall be in your enemy's land. Even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbaths. As long as it lieth desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbaths when ye dwelt upon it. And upon them that are left alive of you, I will send a faintness into their hearts in the land of their enemies. And the sound of a shaken leaf shall chase them, and they shall flee as fleeing from a sword. They shall fall when none pursue it. They shall fall one upon another, even as it were before a sword, when none pursue it. And ye shall have no power to stand before your enemies. And ye shall perish among the heathen. And the land of your enemies shall eat you up. And they that are left of you shall pine away in their iniquity in your enemies' lands. And also in the iniquities of their fathers shall they pine away with them. If they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers, with their trespass, which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and that I also have walked contrary unto them, and I brought them into the land of their enemies, if then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity, then I will remember my covenant with Jacob, and my covenant with Isaac, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land. The land also shall be left of them, and shall enjoy her Sabbaths while she lieth desolate without them. And they shall accept of the punishment of their iniquities, because they despise my judgments, because their soul abhorred my statutes. And yet, for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away. Neither will I abhor them to destroy them utterly, and to break my covenant with them, for I am Yahweh, their most high. But I will, for their sakes, remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the heathen, that I might be their most high. I am Yahweh. These are the statutes and judgments and laws which Yahweh made between him and the children of Israel in Mount Sinai by the hand of Moses. So these are the same ones that the Christians try to tell you are done away with. The fact that we exist, and those of you of the Hebrew bloodline, the so-called black people, and the so-called Indians, those of you that have suffered at the hands of Christianity or Christians, of white Jesus believing people, you know this is in effect. But this has been going on a long time. And let's take another look. I'm going to show you something else. First, let's stop in another familiar scripture. I'm going to stop in Ezekiel first. This is our second witness, Ezekiel, because we're going to show another part of history with these things. Because we know now where we are. We're at the point now where what Leviticus just said, we are acknowledging our sins and the sins of our fathers. We're acknowledging that he would walk contrary to us, and we have walked contrary to him. We're acknowledging that now. This is also called the awakening. And we're experiencing that right now, right? So we understand it, but all the other stuff that happened before, it's still happening, but it started a long time ago, as you all know. So let's go back to another familiar scripture in Ezekiel. And I want to point out another angle to this thing that we're going to come into when we go to Smyrna and Pergamos. Okay, so I'm going to read in Ezekiel 36, but this time I'm only going to read from verse 17 down to verse 22. Actually, 17 to 23. I'm only going to read in Ezekiel chapter 30. Usually I like to read further down, but I'm just trying to stress this other point here. So Ezekiel chapter 36 from verse 17 down to verse 23. Son of man, when the house of Israel dwelt in their own land, they defiled it by their own way and by their doings. Their way was before me as the uncleanness of a removed woman. Wherefore I poured out my fury upon them. for the blood that they had shed upon the land and their idols wherewith they had polluted it. And I, again, second witness about this, and I scattered them among the heathen, and they were dispersed through the countries according to their way, and according to their doings, I judged them. And when they entered into the heathen, whither they went, they profaned my holy name. When they said unto them, these are the people of Yahweh, and are gone forth out of his land. But I had pity for my name, for mine holy name, which the house of Israel had profaned among the heathen, whither they went. Therefore they say unto the house of Israel, thus saith the Most High Yahweh, I do not this for your sakes, O house of Israel, but for my holy name's sake, which ye have profaned among the heathen, whither ye went. And I will sanctify my great name, which is profaned among the heathen, which ye have profaned in the midst of them. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahweh, saith the Most High, when I shall be sanctified in you before their eyes. Now we can even see this today, though it has happened before. How can we see it today? Most of us Hebrews in the United States are worshiping white Jesus. You can try to put it any kind of way you want, but that's the bottom line. We're worshiping the white Jesus Christianity of the slave masters that took us off the continent of Africa. I can't make it any plainer than that. We are worshiping the God of the people that took us off the land of Africa. That's who we're worshiping. And as Revelation will show us too, when we go a little further into Sardis, before they took us, we were worshiping the God of the prophet, so-called Muhammad, of the Arabs. So we are profaning the holy name of the Father whither we went. Not just that. They got our men tattooing themselves up and wearing dresses. Don't they? They got our women tattooing themselves up and giving their stuff to everybody. Don't they? It's gotten so bad that women don't know how to be wives and men don't know how to be husbands. And we learned all this in our enemy's land. We learned all this in our enemy's land. But it's even before now. We're seeing it now because now we're awakened and we're understanding what happened to us according to the prophecies, right? So there's also another class of people that also is going to be dealing with trial. Notice what it says here in Malachi chapter 3, talking about, again, the end times. Malachi chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 13. I'm going to start at verse 13 and go from verse 13 down to verse 18 of Malachi chapter 3. Your words have been stout against me, saith Yahweh. Yet ye say, what have we spoken so much against thee? See, back at the time, they were starting already to go to other gods and to mix the worship of Father Yahweh's true Abrahamic religious practices with heathenism, right? But even now, when we call upon white Jesus and we go to these Christian churches, we are speaking stout against him because that's not what he ordained for us. You know, I was thinking today about Martin Luther King. And I thought about Martin Luther King. And like, for example, Martin Luther King would do a speech about the United States of America. He would say, our country. When Malcolm X would do a speech against the United States of America, he would say, this country. I don't know if you noticed that, but Malcolm X was different than Martin Luther King in this sense. Martin Luther King preached nonviolence. He worshiped white Jesus. and he was asking for equal rights as an American citizen. Am I right about that? Do I have all that right? Martin Luther King preached nonviolence. He worshiped white Jesus, and he was asking for equal rights as an American citizen. He was murdered. Malcolm X preached separation from the so-called white man. He preached militancy, self-protection. He preached revolution, and he was murdered. So you had one that did exactly what they asked him to do, and they murdered him. Then you had one that was the field Negro, and they murdered him. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. They're going to kill you if you're trying to help your people. And especially if you're doing it on their platform, which is Islam and Christianity, and their political platform, and you're doing it on your own, without the Father, without the truth. Now, they were ignorant of the truth, but they weren't doing it on the platform of the scattered nation. And they were both murdered. Two opposites. Both had the love of their people, but they were handling it in opposite way. One of them did everything the so-called white man taught him, and they murdered him because he was trying to help his people. The other one rebelled against everything the so-called white man taught him, and they murdered him. Because these religions, these so-called Abrahamic religions, are not of us. They're not ours. These are our enemies' religions. White Jesus, the Muhammad Arab prophet, Judaism, nothing to do with us. Okay? That's right. The only way we can get free is to depend on our God, who we know to be Yah, and to depend on his word. Our God and his word, that's what we have. And that's who the Bible says will deliver us. If we start depending on anything else, brethren, we're going to end up like our brothers. Malachi chapter 3, I'm going to start again at verse 13 and read through. Your words have been stout against me, saith Yahweh. Yet ye say, what have we spoken so much against thee? Ye have said, it is vain to serve the Most High. And what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance, that we have walked mournfully before Yahweh of hosts? And now we call the proud happy. Yea, they that work wickedness are set up. Yea, they that tempt the Most High even delivered. Then they that feared Yahweh spake often one to another, and Yahweh hearkened and heard it. And a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Yahweh and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, saith Yahweh of hosts. In that day when I make up my jewels, I will spare them, as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall ye return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth Yah and him that serveth him not. So there's a group, that a remnant, that will always be a remnant that fears the Most High. These will be the most attacked. These are the ones that are the saints that Asatan comes at. Okay. Let's go to the New Testament. Luke chapter 21. Luke chapter 21, which we know again is another familiar scripture. Luke chapter 21, beginning at verse 19, going from verse 19 down to verse 24. Luke chapter 21, from verse 19 to verse 24. In your patience possess ye your souls. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people, talking about our forefathers. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So Messiah said, we're going to be scattered into all nations. Moses said the same thing. Ezekiel said the same thing. We're going to be scattered. We're going to be persecuted into all nations. And that doesn't include another persecution of the rebellious children, which again, John, Gospel of John, Messiah again speaking here, Gospel of John, chapter 8, Gospel of John, chapter 8. I'm going to start at verse 37 and read from verse 37 down to verse 44. This is the Gospel of John, chapter 8, from verse 37 to verse 44. Messiah is speaking here. I know that ye are Abraham's seed. He's talking to scribes and Pharisees and Sadducees. I know that ye are Abraham's seed. But ye seek to kill me, because my word hath no place in you. I speak that which I have heard, which I have seen of my Father. See, he never spoke anything on his own. Everything he spoke came from his Father. I speak that which I have seen of my Father, and ye do that which ye have seen of your father. Now, they were all Hebrews, but he spoke of two different groups of Hebrews. They answered and said unto him, Abraham is our father. Yahushua said unto them, if ye were Abraham's children, ye would do the works of Abraham. But now ye seek to kill me, a man that have told you the truth, which I have heard of my Most High. This did not Abraham. Ye do the deeds of your father. Then said they to him, we be not born of fornication. We have one Father, even Yahweh. Yahushua said unto them, if Yahweh were your father, ye would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from Yahweh. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me. Why do ye not understand my speech? Even because ye cannot hear my words. Ye are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. So there are groups of Hebrews that are bloodline, but work for the devil. Then there are the remnant Hebrews that are faithful to the Heavenly Father, who are with Messiah. Okay. Romans chapter 11. Romans chapter 11. Let's see. Romans 11, let's see. I'm going to begin at verse. All right. I'm going to begin at verse 13 of Romans 11 and go down to verse 25. This is Romans chapter 11 from verse 13 to verse 25. Again, this is pretty familiar to most of the awakened Hebrews, because this is one of the awakening scriptures that most of us have read. For I speak to you Gentiles, the apostle Paul writes, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles. I magnify my office. If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh, and might save some of them. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? So he's declaring that the Hebrews have been cast away. Now, he himself is a Hebrew. He wasn't cast away. There was a remnant that wasn't cast away, as we know, but the large majority of those that claimed they were Jews were cast away. And Messiah said they're going to be scattered in all nations, taken captive, because they rejected Messiah and they rejected the Father. If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh, and might save some. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. And if some of the branches were broken off, And thou, that is you Gentiles, being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, and with them partakest of the root and fatness of the olive tree. Boast not against the branches. But if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off, that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief, they were broken off. And thou standest by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear. For if Yahweh spared not the natural branches, take heed, lest he also spare not thee. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of Yahweh. On them which fell, severity, but toward thee goodness, if thou continue in his goodness. Otherwise, thou also shalt be cut off. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in. For Yahweh is able to graft them in again. For if thou were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted in contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more shall these, which be the natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits. That blindness in part is happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles come in. That's the second time we've heard this. Messiah said that will be scattered into all nations until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And here Paul is saying that the Gentiles are able to come into the truth as a result of the falling of some of the Hebrews that were broken off branches. But that's only happening until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And we have seen that as the Bible teaches us in Deuteronomy, in Second Chronicles, in Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, and other places, that the awakening of the bloodline is the end of the Gentiles. Okay? The awakening of the bloodline is the end of the Gentiles. Okay? And then, of course, Ezekiel 38 and 39 shows us that. The awakening of Yah's chosen ones by blood is the end of the Gentiles. See? So the fullness of the Gentiles is coming. So the times of the Gentiles are being fulfilled. They're losing their grip, in other words. That brings us to the two churches of Smyrna and Pergamos. Revelation chapter 2. Again, as we're looking at the book of Revelation, we studied chapter 1, and we started in chapter 2 with the Ephesus church. If you recall, there are 7 churches, right? There are 7 churches. Now, these are 7 time periods. You're going to see in Smyrna one group, and you're going to see in Pergamos another group. And you're going to see the characters mentioned here that gives you a hint of what we're talking about is happening. Okay. And again, once we read through the 7 churches and we begin the 7 seals, which comes next, compare the seals with each church and you will even see more clarity. People get caught up in the 4 horsemen. Don't get caught up in the 4 horsemen. Understand what the assembly means, the time period. That's what you want to understand, because they're representing 4 time periods, and there are a total of 7 time periods. He's just using horses to represent the first 4 time periods. I want to make sure y'all got that. When we get to the 4 horsemen, there's nothing distinct that you're going to see, but that he's using the horses to illustrate what's going on in the time periods. What do horses do? They run. Right? And the Bible describes a horse when it runs that is almost like it's angry with the ground. That's what it's described in Job. He created the wild horse and he runs so fast. He's like angry with the ground, right? Because he's moving fast. He's swift. Well, the 4 horsemen are swift in the assemblies that they represent. And we're going to talk about that after we read the 4 churches to understand what's going on. Okay. So here we just read already, as I mentioned, Ephesus. Now we start with Smyrna, and Smyrna begins in verse 8. Now, well, let's read it first. I'm going to tell you after, but let's read it first. Smyrna begins in Revelation chapter 2 and verse 8. And it's really only 4 verses. It's really only 4 verses. Very short, Smyrna, but it represents a lot. So let's take a look at it. And the angel unto the angel of the church in Smyrna write, these things saith the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. That's a very good hit here. He was dead and is alive. So Messiah died and was resurrected. That's kind of the story of Smyrna. Let's take a look. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death. I will give thee a crown of life. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. So I want you to notice Messiah starts off saying he was dead and he's alive. And he says that they need to be faithful unto death. In other words, that period of time is a strong time of martyrs. Y'all got that? And then he said, he that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. So a lot of the saints died the first death, but none of the saints died the second death. The second death is for the eternally damned, the second death. Okay, that's what Revelation chapter 20 talks about, the second death. Now, in the book of Revelation, especially, one of the things that we have seen is prominent is numbers. There's numbers in the book of Revelation. And here again, here's a number. He says, thou shalt have tribulation 10 days. In prophetic utterance, a day is equal to a year. So there was a 10-year period that was especially heinous in history in terms of persecution of Jews and that which the heathen called Christians. This was started in AD, mark this down, 303 and ended in AD 313. It started with a Roman emperor called Diocletian, where he wanted to kill all Jews and Christians. Why did they say Jews and Christians? Because in the early part of the believers of the first, second, and third century, they could not tell them apart because they worshiped the same way. The only difference is one crew of the Jews believed in Messiah and another crew of the Jews didn't acknowledge Messiah. So you had Jews and the ones they call Christians or Christos or followers of the Messiah. But to the heathen, they were all the same. They were going to kill both the Jews and the Christians. And so Diocletian started out to destroy all of them from every place where Rome was, starting in Rome itself, killing all Jews and Christians in Rome. Now, it ended with this thing called the Edict of Milan in 313. And there's a reason it ended with the Edict of Milan in 313, because that's why you ended up with the next church, Pergamos. So Diocletian said he tried to kill all the Jews. And notice he said, fear not those which say they are Jews and are not, but a synagogue of Satan. So now you had groups of people. Let's talk about the groups of people. There were people like Edomites that followed Judaism, like Herod and his family, right? Like Agrippa. Agrippa was an Edomite. So you had people of powerful positions that claimed they were Jews and were really Edomites. Then you had those that were of Pharisee and scribe traditions and did not receive Messiah and were outright fighting. Like you would see Paul write about him in several of his letters, how they would follow him from city to city trying to kill him because he was preaching Yahushua as the Messiah. Okay, and he mentioned it in Acts chapter 20, if you recall. Every place he go, they try to follow him to kill him. He mentions it in 1 Thessalonians. He mentions it in several places that they lie and wait for him. Those are people they say are Jews, but are not, but a synagogue of Satan. So you got three classes here. You got the Edomites, okay? You got those of the royal house that were in with the Romans, Edomites, and then you had those of the Pharisees and Sadducees, religious leaders that were rejected Messiah, then you had the people that followed those groups. Okay, fear none of those things which y'all suffer, and those that say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Okay, now he mentioned, notice, I want you to notice though, he didn't say this is for you Christians or those that say they are Christians and are not. Did he say that at all here in Smyrna? This is Messiah talking. Did he say, those that say they are Christians and are not? Did he say that? No, he didn't say that. So he's talking about his people as Jews. Do you see that? So he said, fear none of those things. He said, I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews. He called it blasphemy, that say they are Jews and are not, but a synagogue of Satan. So in other words, his people were the true bloodline Jews and the converted heathen among them. Does that make sense? When we just read in Romans, Paul was saying that the Romans, the people in Rome that were converted to the Messiah, were grafted in among them. Among who? Among the Hebrews, which goes along with what we read in Isaiah 56, if you recall. The strangers that take the truth and receive his covenant, they'll be accepted. That's what Paul was talking about. And that's what Messiah is talking about here. Notice he never says the word Christian. Never. And he speaks a lot in the book of Revelation. But you'll see Christian historians write Christians. Well, of course they're going to. Okay. But the Bible doesn't. Okay. So then, of course, he gives them the promise. You might die the first death, but you'll be resurrected like Messiah, and you will not die the second death. Well, brethren, as we have mentioned before, some of us in our day are going to be martyrs. Some of us are going to be martyred, brethren. Okay, you're already seeing craziness go on. I mean, right? I mean, you already see a 6-year-old boy. His mother answers the door to the landlord, and the landlord comes in and stabs a 6-year-old boy to death. Stabs a 6-year-old boy to death. Indian Muslim woman, a doctor in Houston, Texas, sitting at a picnic table. Man sees her. She don't know him. He stabbed her to death. That hatred that you see from these rednecks is going to be directed at us. Okay, it's coming. Some of us are going to be martyrs, just like they were in Smyrna. Okay, so this represents the 4th century, from 303 to 313, the 4th century. So a couple of emperors after that came a compromise. Let's read it. Revelation chapter 2, beginning at verse 12. I'm going to, let me first read from verse 12 to verse 13, because a character comes up in here, a very important character that you should read about in the book of Numbers, because that's where he comes from. But Messiah is using him as an object lesson for this next time period of Pergamos. He's using this character, this Bible character, Balaam. He's using him as an object lesson for what happened at the time of those assemblies. Okay? I want to make sure you got me. So Balaam didn't exist, in the 4th century, but Messiah is using him as an object lesson for the assemblies that existed in the 4th century. Okay? So let's take a look at it in Pergamos, beginning at Revelation chapter 2, verse 12, and we're going to go from verse 12 down to verse 14. Watch carefully. And to the angel of the church in Pergamos write, these things saith he which hath the sharp sword with 2 edges. I know thy works, and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is, and thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied my faith, even in those days wherein Antipas, my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelleth. But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. So he uses this character called Antipas. And notice what he says about Antipas. He said, even in those days wherein Antipas, my faithful martyr. Now, you want to know who Antipas is? Well, let me ask you. What was the church before this? What was the church before this? The assembly before Pergamos. What was it? It was Smyrna. What did he say about Smyrna? You're going to have tribulation 10 days. And what did I tell you? There's going to be what? Martyrs. There were martyrs at that time. They wanted to kill all the Jews and Christians. And that's why he mentions Antipas. That makes sense to you? So he says, I know where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. It was Rome. And thou holdest my name, and has not denied my faith, even in those days. That's the time period before, wherein Antipas, my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelt. So he's talking about what Diocletian did, and he said, you guys come out of that. But I have a few things against you, because you have Balaam. Now, who was Balaam? I put scriptures in the description box, but I want to read it. Okay. First, let's start at the end result of Balaam in Numbers, and then we'll go back also in Numbers to Balaam's beginning. And then you'll get a picture of what Balaam was like. Okay. You'll get a picture of what he was like. And that will tell you what Messiah is talking about in Pergamos. I want to make sure I got y'all so far. Y'all with me so far? So in other words, you hear what I said, right? So he uses Balaam as an object lesson to tell you what was going on there. So I'm going to go back. We're going to look at the real Balaam. And notice what he said. Balaam taught the people to commit fornication and to eat things sacrificed to idols. Okay? So let's start in Numbers chapter 31. This is the end of Balaam, but it'll give you a good hint because you're going to see Moses get upset. So this is Numbers chapter 31. I'm going to start from verse 1 and read down to verse 16. Numbers chapter 31 from 1 to 16. Watch Balaam. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Avenge the children of Israel of the Midianites. Afterward, thou shalt be gathered unto thy people. In other words, you're going to die after this, but this is your last assignment. I need you to take care of this business with the Midianites. Okay. And Moses spake unto the people, saying, arm some of yourselves unto the war, and let them go against the Midianites, and avenge Yahweh of Midian. Of every tribe 1,000. Throughout all the tribes of Israel shall ye send to the war. And there were delivered out of the thousands of Israel, 1,000 of every tribe, 12,000 armed for war. And Moses sent them, 1,000 of every tribe. We've heard of 12,000 of every tribe, haven't we? Okay, wait a minute. And Moses sent them to the war, 1,000 of every tribe. Them and Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, to the war with the holy instruments and the trumpets to blow in his hand. And they warred against the Midianites as Yahweh commanded Moses. And they slew all the males. Notice it said, they slew all the males. Okay. Verse 8. And they slew the kings of Midian beside the rest of them that were slain, namely Evi and Rakim and Zawar and Hawar and Narabah, 5 kings of Midian. Balaam also, the son of Peor, they slew with the sword. So that's how Balaam ended up. Okay, wait, we're not finished though. And the children of Israel took all the women of Midian captives and their little ones, and took the spoil of all their cattle and all their flocks and all their goods. And they burnt all their cities wherein they dwelt, and all their goodly castles with fire. And they took all the spoil and all the prey, both of men and of beasts. And they brought the captives and the prey and the spoil unto Moses and Eleazar the priest, unto the congregation of the children of Israel, unto the camp at the plains of Moab, which are by Jordan near Jericho. And Moses and Eleazar the priest and all the princes of the congregation went forth to meet them without the camp. And Moses was wroth with the captains over thousands, with the officers of the host, with the captains over thousands and the captains over hundreds, and which came from the battle. And Moses said unto them, have ye saved all the women alive? Now watch verse 16. Watch verse 16. Numbers chapter 31, verse 16. Watch this. Behold, talking about the women, these caused the children of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to commit trespass against Yahweh in the matter of Peor. And there was a plague among the congregation of Yahweh. So he ended up killing all the females that had children and all the little babies. He ended up saving only the virgin women. Only the virgin women. Okay. He said, you saved the woman, and these women, through Balaam's counsel, caused the children of Israel to commit trespass. And there was a plague among the people because of these women. Balaam gave them that counsel. So wait. What do women represent in the book of Revelation? What do women represent? What do women represent, brethren? You got two major women. You got two. What do they represent? You got two women. What do the two women represent? In the book of Revelation, you got two main women. Right? Give me more. There's two women. What are they like, these two women? What are they like, these two women? You got two. There's not just one, there's two in the book of Revelation. What are they like? What are they, these two women? What does it say about them? What does it say? No, don't guess. What does it say? What does the Bible say? Okay. There's one in Revelation chapter 12, right? There's a woman in Revelation chapter 12, right? Y'all know that, right? And she has 12 stars, a crown with 12 stars. Y'all remember her? You remember her? The woman with 12 stars. Do you remember her? That's right. That's the 12 tribes of Israel. That's the holy women. Then there's another woman, a whore, that rides upon the beast. So you have two women. You have the harlot and you have the pure woman. Are we with me? You with me so far? Everybody with me so far? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. You got me? So there's two women. There's a whore and there's a pure woman. Okay? All right. When you commit fornication is a man having sex with a whore. It's not a man having sex with his girlfriend. That's not fornication. Especially if the girlfriend's only having sex with that man. That's your concubine in the Bible. That's your concubine. Okay? When you having sex with a whore, or you having sex with a woman that's having sex with different men, that's a whore in the Bible. You are committing fornication. So the women called by the counsel of Balaam caused the children of Israel to commit fornication. So these were whores. And the children of Israel had sex with them. And they started worshiping their gods and eating their food. Let's go back now and take a look. All right. Still in Numbers. And I'm going to start at the end of chapter 24 because Balaam was asked to curse Israel. He was being paid handsomely to curse Israel. Okay. But in chapter 24, it doesn't really tell you until chapter 31, which we just read, what actually happened. We just read that he counseled them to go into the camp and they committed fornication and he caused a plague to come on the children of Israel. Okay. A woman. Okay. Now, let's see. I'm going to begin at verse, I'm going to start at verse 15 because we're not going to read the whole thing, but Numbers chapter 24, we're getting a picture of who Balaam is and what the result is of what he did. And we're going to go back to Pergamos, okay? So now we have Numbers chapter 24, beginning at verse 15, Balaam. And he took up this parable and said, Balaam, the son of Peor, hath said, The man whose eyes are open have said, he have said, which heard the words of Yahweh and knew the knowledge of the Most High. So Balaam was knowledgeable of Yahweh. This is important. He was knowledgeable of the true God. He knew who the true God was. It wasn't like he worshiped some idols. He knew who the true God was. Did y'all see that? It says here, he have said, which heard the words of Yahweh and knew the knowledge of the Most High. So Balaam knew Yah. That's important for us to understand. Okay. Which saw the vision of the Almighty falling into a trance, but having his eyes open. I see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroy all the children of Sheth. And Edom shall be a possession. Seir also shall be a possession for his enemies. Israel shall do valiantly. Out of Jacob shall come he that shall have dominion, and shall destroy him that remaineth of the city. And when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. Amalek is an Edomite. And he looked on the Kenites and took up his parable and said, strong is thy dwelling place, and thou puttest thy nest in the rock. Kenites were with the Amalekites in Mount Seir. Nevertheless, the Kenite shall be wasted until Ashur shall carry thee away captive. And he took up this parable and said, alas, who shall live when the Most High doeth this? And ships shall come from the coast of Kittim, Europeans, and shall afflict Ashur, and shall afflict Eber, Hebrews. And he shall also perish forever. And Balaam rose up and went and returned to his place, and Balak also went his way. So you see how it ended up. Balaam blessed Israel. But then chapter 25 happens. This is Numbers chapter 25, beginning at verse 1 and reading down to verse 9. This is Numbers chapter 25, beginning at verse 1 and going down to verse 9. And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. See, they got whores from Moab, who were also with the Midianites, and they started committing fornication with the whores. Okay. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods. Israel started sacrificing unto the gods of the whores. And the people did eat and bow down to their gods. And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor. And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Israel. And Yahweh said unto Moses, take all the heads of the people and hang them up before Yahweh against the sun, that the fierce anger of Yahweh may be turned away from Israel. And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, slay ye every one his men that were joined unto Baal Peor. And behold, one of the children of Israel, with all this happening, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman. In the sight of Moses, and in the sight, this boy was bold, and in the sight of the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping before the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw it, he rose up from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand and went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel. So they were, and notice verse 10, and it says in verse 9, and those that died in the plague were 24,000. So they were committing fornication with the woman at the counsel of somebody that believed, that supposed to believe in their God. Let me say that again. Balaam was a believer in Yah. So they trusted him. They trusted him because they thought he was one of them. Does that make sense? Did not Judas come from among the Israelites? Now, Balaam, he was a believer in Father Yah, probably a black man. And they trusted him. And he counseled against their enemy to destroy them. Now, let's go back to Revelation chapter 2 and talk about Pergamos. Revelation chapter 2. Let's talk about Pergamos now. Since they mentioned Balaam, now we know why. Okay, let's go back. Revelation chapter 2, beginning at verse 12 and reading back to verse 14. And to the angel of the church in Pergamos write, these things saith he which hath the sharp sword with two edges. What is that sharp sword with two edges? It's his mouth, right? Messiah's mouth is described as a sharp sword with 2 edges. Why? Because his word is with power. He comes straight. He doesn't compromise with his word. He comes strong, right? His word is like the sharp sword with 2 edges. I know thy works and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. Again, this is Rome. And thou holdest fast my name and hast not denied my faith, even in those days where Antipas, my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelleth. But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam. What? Who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. So spiritually, what happened then? Talk to me. What happened after Smyrna and during the time period of the assembly of... That's right. Brothers leading brothers astray. Now, let me add another character into the mix here. Let me add a real historical character from that time into the mix. Y'all heard of Constantine? Y'all know who Constantine was? See, that is why the persecution lasted 10 years and then it started to end, because now Constantine became a Christian. Constantine became a Christian as he worshiped all the other gods too. He became a Christian. And so what do we have? Let's combine what we have. We have Constantine becoming a Christian, and we have people that's supposed to believe like us, that look like us, that was among us, causing us to compromise and to eat things sacrificed unto idols and to commit fornication. And Constantine did all those things. In other words, there was a compromise between Constantine and the Hebrews or the Christians. Y'all see that? There was a compromise. And the people that were the leaders, that people respected among the Christians and Hebrews, they made compromise with Constantine. And therein you begin what became the official institution of Christianity, which mixes all kinds of paganism. And eventually we know they turned Messiah into the image of a European man. It didn't happen then, but they turned him into the image of a European man. They created a whole institution, which is our next church, which we'll go in tomorrow, which later became the Catholic Church. Okay? Later became the Catholic Church. But here you see Balaam causing them to compromise with Rome. Does that make sense, y'all? Okay. All right. We got a little more though. So now let's stop right here first. So we know, first of all, Christianity is not biblical. It is an institution, a pagan religion institution. They worship a white Jesus. They show you pictures of a white Jesus. Am I lying? Some of them worship on Sunday, the day of the sun god, claiming that it's the day of resurrection. They all have structures similar to Rome, no matter they worship on Sunday or Shabbat. The Seventh-day Adventists just have Mass on Saturday. But they all have the image of the beast. Am I right? And they're all committing the Hebrews that are worshiping this are committing spiritual fornication. And they're embarrassing the Father among the heathen, whether we dwell. Isn't that what Ezekiel said? Worshiping wood and stone. We're committing spiritual fornication with who? The whore. If you're doing those things, you're one of the daughters of the whore. You're not anymore with the 12 stars. You're with the whore. And Balaam led you there. You understand? There's no Sunday worship. There's no such thing as an institution called Christianity. Christianity is a religion. If you ask anybody on planet Earth, if I asked you, is Christianity a religion? Would you say yes or no? Is Christianity a religion? Is it a religion? That's what I want to know. Is it an official religion? Well, if it is, it's not biblical, because the Bible never speaks of any official religion called Christianity. The Bible speaks of a God of the Hebrews, right? We just read where Paul said among the Roman that were converted, he said, you were grafted in among them. Among who? Among Israel. Christianity is a man-made religious institution. It's a false God. Okay? There's only one God in the Bible, and that is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. None of those men created a religion. Messiah didn't come here and create no new religion either. He just said, we just read, he said, I learned that which I have what? I have seen of my father. Isn't that what he said? I learned that which I have seen of my father. I proceeded and came forth from my father. What? Did the father do away with Israel to start a new religion called Christianity? Did he? Does the Bible say that anywhere? Anywhere? Or does he say, my people are going to come back to me and I'm going to put them back on their land? Isn't that what he said? See? So let's continue. So now we got Balaam. We understand why he brought that. We understand he came at the time of Constantine. There was a compromise. You see how we can see it right here in the word. Praise the Most High. All right, wait a minute. So with the compromise, now you're going all kind of ways now. You know, now you're getting into a whole new religion now with Constantine, a whole new religion called Christianity. Okay, now Revelation chapter 2, verse 15, 16, and 17. Revelation chapter 2, verse 15, 16, and 17. So hast thou also them that hold the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, which thing I hate. Now, we're going to talk about this in a second. We talked about it in Ephesus. We're going to talk about it again. But wait a minute. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit said unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the hidden manna, and will give him a white stone, and in the stone a new name, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth it. Each of us in the kingdom is going to have a unique name. There'll be no two Michaels, no two Davids, no two Sams, no two Tonys. Everybody's going to have their own unique name. Isn't that what Psalm 147? He telleth the number of the stars and calleth them all by their names. And in Daniel, he said, they that follow, that teach righteousness shall be as the stars. He has a unique name for each of us. You believe that? A unique name for each of us. It's going to be one person with your name. So if somebody says your name, they're only talking about one person. Isn't that amazing? I know that's hard for us to conceive, but you understand now, Father Yah and the heavenly intelligence dwell in dimensions we have no clue about. Okay? Now, Nicolaitans, let's talk about this. Again, you know, because they bring it up twice here. So let's talk about this now. So after Balaam comes, or the spirit of Balaam comes, and they compromise with Constantine, and they create this Christian religion, what's going to happen now? Let me ask you a question. Does it make logical sense that if you're going to go now to idols, your doctrines are going to change? You're going to leave the faith of Messiah, and you're going to go to doctrines that didn't come from Messiah, like Sunday worship. Does that make sense, y'all? Like the doctrine of a religion of Christianity. That makes sense? So you, in order, when you leave the Father, you're committing fornication with a different woman. That means you are following doctrines that are unbiblical, that do not have 2 or 3 biblical witnesses. You're following a different doctrine. So let's go back through and find out what were the doctrines that we wondered about, and tell me if you've heard any of these before. Jude, again, we went through this before. Jude, going to be at verse 4. Verse 4, for there are certain men crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, ungodly men, turning the grace of our Most High into lasciviousness, and denying the only Most High Yahweh and the Messiah Yahweh Shah. Now wait, lasciviousness means fornication, sexual lewdness, loose, being loose, not being chaste, not being clean, being freaky deep, like AC/DC, 2 women, 2 men, orgies, having multiple sexual partners. So turning grace into a license to sin. In other words, saying, wait for it, there's no law. There's no law. Hey, does any sects of Christianity teach that the law is done away with, but we're under grace? And any sects of Christianity teach that the law is done away with, we're under grace? Anybody do that? And Paul references it also in Romans chapter 3, as we know, Romans chapter 3. And let's begin in Romans chapter 3. Going to begin at verse 5. Romans chapter 3. Wait, I'm going to start at verse 6. Romans chapter 3 from verse 6 down to verse 9. Romans chapter 3 from 6 to 9. Get right to the point here. Yah forbid, for then how shall Yah judge the world? For if the truth of Yah hath more abounded through my lie unto his glory, why yet am I also judged a sinner, and not rather as we be slanderously reported, and as some affirm that we say, let us do evil that good may come, whose damnation is just. In other words, you're always saved. You can never be lost, no matter what you do. Does they teach that in Christianity? Does anybody in Christianity teach that? I think they call it once saved, always saved. I think they do teach that, don't they? So you got Jude and Paul as witnesses. Wait a minute. Let's get another witness from Paul. Well, actually, this is Saint Luke. This is brother Luke. We got Jude, Paul, and actually Paul is speaking in the book of Acts, but we know Luke wrote the book of Acts. So this is a third witness. This is Acts chapter 20. Acts chapter 20. Acts chapter 20. Let's read Acts chapter 20, going from verse 24, down to verse 30. Acts chapter 20 from verse 24 to verse 30. Acts chapter 20 from verse 24 to verse 30. You ready? Tell me if this sounds familiar. But none of these things move me, neither count I my life dear unto myself, so that I might finish my course with joy in the ministry which I have received of the Master Yahweh Shai, to testify the gospel of the grace of Yahweh. And now, behold, I know that ye all among whom I have gone preaching the kingdom of Yahweh shall see my face no more. Wherefore, I take you to record this day that I am pure from the blood of all men. For I have not shunned to declare unto you all the counsel of Yahweh. Take heed, therefore, unto yourselves and to all the flock over the which the Holy Ghost have made you overseers, to feed the church of Yahweh, which he hath purchased with his own blood. For I know this, that after my departing shall grievous wolves enter in among you, not sparing the flock. Also of your own selves shall men arise, speaking perverse things, to draw away disciples after them. So wait, enter in among you. That's called infiltration. Have the Christian churches suffered from infiltration? What do you think? Did the Protestant Reformation overcome the Catholic Church? I mean, did they? Or was there an infiltration into the Protestant churches to bring them all into subjection to the Pope? I mean, what do you think? Did they get infiltrated or didn't they? And what about this? What about this? Now, Charles Taze Russell, who is the founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses, was once an SDA. And he broke away from the SDA church to start the Jehovah's Witnesses. Some other dude started the Pentecostal church after he was some other Christian religion. Ellen White and the founders of SDA church came from this man named William Miller. So among them own selves, people kept arising, and people still arising, and calling away disciples after themselves. Joseph Smith comes with the Mormons. He was something else before, and then he created this Mormon church and saw white Jesus. Okay, so they, from their own selves, they keep rising and creating disciples after themselves. So we've seen everything we saw in Pergamos. We know from personal experience, we've all saw it. We've all saw compromise with Balaam, because it's always people that look like us that are the traitors. Judas was the traitor. Judas was a Hebrew Israelite. He was the traitor. Messiah knew who he was. He was a traitor. We know William O'Neill betrayed Fred Hampton. We know Malcolm X's bodyguards, he was surrounded by police, yet nobody protected him when the men came in there to shoot him. And it was a Muslim from a mosque in New Jersey that Malcolm X was murdered by with the shotgun. So they always use us against us. Nothing has changed, brother. So you can see Pergamos. Now, what does that mean for us today? Well, we can just talk about it now. You're going to see, and you do see, sellouts. That's what we call them today. Isn't that right? Sellouts. You see sellouts. There are sellouts everywhere. And even now, among the so-called awakened among us, there's going to arise, the Bible just teaches us, they're going to arise sellouts. They're going to come out. There's no doubt, brethren. But we don't worry about sellouts. Just like Messiah didn't worry about Judas, did he? He warned Judas. He was giving him the side note. Said, listen, man, it'd be better if you hadn't been born, man. Turn. He wasn't hearing it. He was a sellout. He was a sellout. William O'Neill ended up killing himself too. Do you know that he ran out in the middle of a highway and let cars hit him? He's a sellout. He was a sellout. Well, the man that killed Malcolm X was under protection of the government all the way until his funeral. They had government presence at his funeral even. He was a sellout. There's always going to be sellouts. Balaam will exist until we're on the sea of glass. Then there'll be no more Balaams. Just stay faithful to the truth. Just stay faithful to the truth. Okay? Be faithful to the truth. Be like Antipas. Be faithful to the truth. And you'll be all right. Balaam's going to exist. They're going to teach Nicolaitan doctrine. They are. We see it. Look, they're over there fighting in the so-called Middle East. And I say so-called because the Bible never, I don't know, nothing in the Bible mentioning no Middle East. It was part of the continent that we now call Africa. They divided it by the canal, but it was part of the continent we call Africa. Then they called it Cush and Mizraim till the Greeks came and changed the name to Egypt. But see, then they changed in the names. When children of Yafet come, they come and kick the door and change all the names. Isn't that what they do? They kick the door and change all the names and put their culture, they stamp on the people. Okay, that's what we see. So you're going to see more of that. Stay faithful to the Father, Yah. Stay faithful to his word. As he said, if you're faithful unto death, he will give you a crown of life. If you're faithful, if you overcome, he's going to give you a new name, which no man knew but you. You're going to have a unique name in the kingdom. Praise the Most High. Okay? Be faithful unto death. The awakening has begun, brethren. You're going to have more and more and more compromise. The awakening has begun. Praise the Most High. Stay faithful. Now, tomorrow we're going to go to the next phase, which is the establishment of the Roman Catholic Church. And you'll see some more Bible characters in there that we're familiar with. And you'll see why they bring up these characters. But until then, enjoy the Shabbat rest tonight. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you, be gracious unto you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Also want to thank you all for your prayers for my dad. He had a good week this week. It was interesting. Just a quick testimony. I went in, he had a rash all over his body earlier in the week. So I asked the nurse, the head nurse, and it was in the weekend, to give me a list of all the medications they were giving him, especially the newer medications. So she picked out this one medication that had just been given him for the previous 2 weeks. I said, take him off of that. And so she said, I got to get permission to the doctor, but you're because I'm the health proxy. So she called the doctor and the family wants him off this. Okay. They took him off. So that was Sunday. So by Tuesday, he was alert. See, before he had been in and out, he was alert. We all noticed that. He still had the rash, but he was alert. By yesterday, the rash was gone. And he was in his wheelchair watching TV. And he was alert. He was alert. He was conscious of everything around him. He got better this week. So again, I want to praise the Most High for your prayers. Thank you for that. And please keep praying for my dad. And we'll just keep seeking the Most High for his truth and his righteousness and his will to be done. Praise the Most High. May the Most High bless you again and keep you and cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you and lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom.